Hello, and welcome to Mom and Dad MagicBox, the show where we bring together all stakeholders in our children's education. I'm Isaac Carmignani. We begin with the headlines. Mayor Bill de Blasio has announced that the city will expand its vision screening program to all 130 community schools and will partner with Warby Parker to provide a free pair of glasses to every student in need. Based on student needs, the city estimates the New York City-based tech company Warby Parker will provide glasses to approximately 20,000 students over the next 4 years. Chancellor Carmen Farina has announced a book giveaway program for all 4-year-olds enrolled in free, high-quality pre-K programs across the city. This free package, which includes 5 high-quality books, supplementary activities, and a letter from the Chancellor, will go to students participating in the first historic year of pre-K for all. And that's it for our headlines. Now we want to return to the Google moderator of the Google OnAir conference, and she is discussing what is the best resource for teachers that are looking to innovate. Please listen in.
I'll start with you, Ken. Megan wants to know, is there a specific book or resource you would suggest for getting started with some of these ideas, such as project-based learning?
Yeah, the single best resource I always recommend to any educator is accessibility through social media. So for example, on Twitter, there's a PBL chat. So I would say the best resource is the human resource. It's reaching out to the community, reaching out through social media, and identifying what are your specific areas that you're looking to, in this case, incorporate project-based learning, whether it's a grade level or a subject matter, and then identifying that so that you can build essentially a solid network of connections with other educators who either have utilized effectively project-based learning in a similar environment or who have a similar interest in doing projects maybe that are similar to what you've asked.
I would say that that's the way to go, and especially just throw yourself into the unexpected and tell that to your students and make that like a co-learning experience. You might learn something really exciting things, and even your students might find out some very interesting elements.
This is from Colleen. How can schools help students learn about and participate in world issues such as poverty or justice?
Here in the U.S., making sure that we understand, what are the big problems facing the world and how are local solutions covering those problems around the world. And so that's absolutely critical, is to make sure that that's built into the curriculum as well, that we're building those global competency skills around culture, around understanding, around social issues, and around making sure that we recognize that the problems that we're solving aren't just necessarily these big global problems, but there are problems at a local level as well that local communities are solving.
And this is for Zoe. A question from a viewer named Ken. Ken says, do you see a danger that businesses may narrow the focus of the learning for our students such that critical thinking and creativity are compromised?
Businesses in our report recognize that they also themselves need to play an increased role in teaching those skills on the job, not just relying on graduates to be expected to know everything when they start. So they themselves playing a role in bridging that skills gap that they highlighted.
All right, and this one is for Ken and then Yoni. Ed wants to know, is it specific skills that are important or more dynamic traits such as adaptability and flexibility, as we don't know what the future will bring? I know what Ken's going to say. Go ahead, Ken.
Yes, it's dynamic traits by all means. That embodies the mindset mentality. With technology, there's so much out there and there's so much that is accessible that being able to look at information in different ways, looking at, even like what Jamie said, being able to look at problems in different ways, which, by the way, is the engineer mentality, certainly is what's needed the most.
Yeah, very good question. I think that since we don't know what kind of jobs there are in the future, so we don't know what specific skills are needed. So obviously it's very dynamic and fluid skills that you need.
All right, and here's someone pushing to be the best. We have, this is for Jamie from Ben. How can I, as an educator who works with technology every day, become the most innovative in my field?
To have the mindset of innovation. We've got to keep in mind that technology is not, I always, I do a lot of presentations and I start with this idea that education is a silver bullet, and that what we need to do is make sure that education continues to be that silver bullet. I never say that technology is the silver bullet. Technology is not. Technology is an enabling and supporting capability. Our job as technologists is to make that technology easy to use and visible and manageable and scalable. And so what we want our innovative teachers to be able to do is to take that technology and embed it into what they want to do in their classrooms, but ask those critical questions. What else can I do? How do I push the envelope? And so it's not necessarily understanding what technology is next, or what app is next, or what social media channel everyone is on. It's more about understanding that concept of iteration, that idea that innovation comes from constant iteration. And so we want to make sure that our teachers are looking at technology not as the end all, but as a tool, as an enabling and supporting capability that they can use in our classrooms.
All right, thank you, Jamie. And that is going to end our audience questions. Thank you so much to our viewers for some of those terrific questions and some tough ones. And just to highlight a few points from the panel, we certainly talked a lot about problem solving. We're hearing that not only the importance of that from educators, but also from the businesses that are seeing that as one of the skills that's really lacking. We talked about collaboration and teaching mindsets, teaching life skills as well, and just that real focus on student leadership. So really backing away from memorization and always having the right answer, and just rewarding those mistakes. For you and your students to be involved in what's being called the world's largest lesson in September, and that will really dive into trying to solve some of the world's largest problems. To talk more about that, we have Richard Curtis, whose work you may know. He actually wrote For Weddings and a Funeral, Bridget Jones' Diary, and my personal favorite, Love Actually. And he has done many things beyond the screen, including he co-founded Comic Relief, a nonprofit that aims to see an end to poverty in this world. And this year alone, they have raised £78 million for the cause. So a big round of applause for that. He's also a great advocate for getting students and communities involved together on tackling some of the world's biggest problems. Here's Richard to tell you more.
Hello, my name is Richard Curtis. Thank you very much for having me on your Education on Air conference. Just to introduce myself, I'm the writer of a whole variety of very dodgy films that have made Hugh Grant very rich and very unhappy. My girlfriend says that my whole life is based on Hugh Grant falling in love and Mr. Bean falling over. So I want to start with an apology. And what I'm hoping to be part of during the course of this next year is an effort to lay down the new Sustainable Development Goals, the global goals, as some kind of a marker for a new generation of adults and of politicians, but also of kids who are learning, as an amazing and ambitious thing for our time. So I keep thinking that the aim of 2015 to 2030 is that we should be the last generation to be threatened by climate change, the most determined generation to fight inequality and injustice, and the first generation to end extreme poverty. And you, as the teachers of the young, will be the people who make these things really happen. So what I'm just working with a group of people, we're working on something called Project Everyone. We're working with the UN. We're working with the Global Poverty Project. What we're trying to do is see whether or not we can create in September what I would call as a great opening weekend for the UN's new goals. The MDGs snuck into the world and weren't really famous till about 2005. What we want to do is have a huge Star Wars, Titanic, Avengers, Age of Ultron type opening for these new goals. And so what I'm asking and what we're trying to do is to get the world's biggest lesson happening after the goals are announced, in the week, as it were, after September the 28th. And what would be fantastic is if all teachers could think whether this isn't an opportunity to introduce this kind of practical idealism and determination to change the world quickly within a 15-year period. We're just saying on September the 28th, that week, is there anything better that we could do than come up with a plan whereby, well, we could fix the universe one planet at a time, starting with ours.
There is a reason why he writes comedies. As Richard told us, there are steps that we can do right now, today, to help our students become leaders for the future. In our next segment, we have 8 keynote speakers who are going to tell you exactly how you can do that, whether you are in a classroom, a school, a district, a government, or a home. We all have a role to do. Our next 2 sessions are from people you may also recognize from the screen. In about 10 minutes, we'll be hearing from Lord Putnam. He is the independent, award-winning producer of films including Chariots of Fire and also The Killing Field. So we'll be hearing from him shortly. But in our next segment, we're going to hear from LeVar Burton. Now, he was an actor in Roots as well as Star Trek: The Next Generation. He is the host of the children's program Reading Rainbow and has done extensive work on the Reading Rainbow app. He has inspired generations of children to love to read and to dream. His story starts at the beginning, at the most important place, inspiring one young child to be a lifelong learner.
Irma Jean Christian. That's my mother's name. And whenever I have the opportunity to mention my mother when I speak to people, I always do. I believe about myself that I am the man that I am because my mother is the person that she is. My mother was my first teacher. She was an English teacher before I was born. And it's my mother that I really have inherited my love of literature and the written word. You see, my mother is a voracious reader and has always had at least 2, sometimes 3 books going simultaneously for her own reading pleasure. I don't believe that it is possible for a human being to reach their highest potential unless they're a reader. My mother taught me a lot of things, not the least of which was that I would one day grow up and inherit a world that would be oftentimes hostile to my presence, simply because of the color of my skin. And she knew that the best way to equip me for that future, the best thing that she could do for me, was to provide me with a quality education. When I was a kid in Sacramento, California, I read a lot of science fiction literature. And it was not often, it was fairly rare for me to encounter heroes in the pages of those novels who looked like me. Gene Roddenberry's vision of the future was revelationary to me, because what Star Trek said to me in the 70s was that when the future comes, there's a place for you. And that meant the world to me. Having grown up in the age of television, I cannot impress upon you the importance of children seeing themselves reflected in the popular culture. So seeing Nichelle Nichols on the bridge of the Enterprise meant the world to me. The Star Trek universe and the decisions that Gene made in terms of the creation of that universe were absolutely the kind of world that I wanted to live in, a place where we had resolved all issues of race and class and economy and sex. It was and continues to be the kind of world that I strive to reflect and create in my life. So Star Trek and the science fiction literature that I read has always been important to me. I believe that science fiction literature invites us to contemplate what I believe are 2 of the most important words in language, in combination. Those 2 words being, what if? What if? And that invitation to contemplate the what if is really the key, in my view, as to how we unlock what is our own unique superpower as human beings, and that is the power to imagine. I know that there was some child who watched those early episodes of Star Trek and saw Kirk pulling out his communicator from the back of his belt and flipping it open and calling Scotty on the ship and saying, "Scotty, beam me up." That kid grew up, became an engineer, a designer of product, and is responsible for a piece of technology more prevalent than the toaster. Have you ever seen or used yourself a flip cell phone? That which we focus our attention upon is what we tend to create in the world. And Star Trek in particular has really been responsible for all sorts of technological advances that we enjoy now. The Bluetooth ear device, that is inspired, I know, by Lieutenant Uhuru's earpiece. The tablet computer itself, we carried them on the Enterprise D all the time. So the link between literature, the imagination, and the world in which we live is absolutely inextricable. We are at a particularly opportune moment in history because of the engaging nature of the technology that we've created. And if we don't use that technology in the service of educating our children, we will have missed the opportunity of the millennium. Television was simply the technology that we used on Reading Rainbow in the 80s because that's where our kids were hanging out. In the 80s, television was where they tended to congregate. And so that's where Reading Rainbow went in our mission to meet kids where they are and take them where we want them to go. If you want to reach kids today, you need to be in the digital realm, which is why we have reinvented Reading Rainbow for this new generation of digital natives. We have proven with the Reading Rainbow app that we can get kids to come to this very engaging technology to read books. Kids come to the Reading Rainbow app reading about 200,000 books a week, which for me is an absolute game changer. It proves to me that it works, that the engagement factor of these tablet computers, of this digital realm, works in our favor. I believe that every human being on the planet has a birthright to be literate in at least one language. And if you are, you have the opportunity to educate yourself. I believe that if you can read, you are, in my absolute bottom line definition of the word, free. You're free because no one can dominate you with their point of view. No one can pull the wool over your eyes. No one can enslave you with their will. You have the ability to educate yourself, to pick up a book, take a look, to go anywhere in the world in your imagination, to know that the world is a place of vast experience and opportunity, and that you can find your place in the world if you only expose yourself to enough of that variety to find that which you resonate with.
So that concludes this segment of our coverage of the Google OnAir Education Conference. We hope you enjoyed it. Now for our app of the week, we would like to discuss the Department of Education's School Food brand new mobile app. It's downloadable on Apple and Android platforms, and it maps the Summer Meals program, which runs through September 4th. This program serves children 18 years of age and younger, regardless of New York City residency, at roughly 1,100 locations. That includes pools, parks, public housing sites, and libraries, and many, many more. For our Museum of the Week, we would like to briefly discuss the Brooklyn Museum. This is a very ornate museum in downtown Brooklyn, just off of the 2 and 3 trains. There's a vast array of collections there. My personal favorite is the Egyptian collection. There are a lot of good stuff to see there, very affordable to take your kids to. We hope you enjoy it, and let us know your stories as to what happens there. For our talent show, we would like to take you to the ukulele and dance performance at the Thai Cultural Center in New York City. The students and their instructors there.